Hello and welcome to the Daily Politics. Now, our guest of the day, Maria Miller, chairs the newly formed Women and Equality Select Committee. But with a woman Prime Minister at the helm for a second time and girls now outperforming boys at school, is the work of the committee already done? Well, Laura Perrins of the website The Conservative Woman certainly thinks so. And here's her soapbox on why she thinks feminism is making women moany and miserable.
Modern feminism ignores what women actually want, which is a balance between home and work. Feminism has been hijacked by a narrow elite who dominate media and politics. Lots of women have far more traditional views than they are permitted to admit, which is one of the reasons we set up the website The Conservative Woman. We used to have a reader who left comments telling us that today's generation of young women were kick-ass and confident and going to take over the world, so we had better get used to it. But she's wrong. What feminism has produced is a generation of whining, moaning women who, despite unparalleled opportunity and wealth, view themselves as victims. Feminism has infantilized women. After at least a decade of the feminists claiming victimhood and mounting an extremely effective public campaign to serve their interests, girls now outperform boys all the way through the education system. Young women significantly outnumber young men at university, and they out-earn young men after graduation until the age of about 30. But still, women are not happy. A recent report revealed that 38% of women were worried about their mental health, 22% felt depressed, and 55% were worried for their future. The modern 20-something woman has inherited the fruits of the poisonous feminist ideology that seeks to divide the sexes instead of uniting them. No wonder they're so damn miserable.
And Laura Perrins joins us now. They've already started the conversation. Listening to you there, the sisterhood will be crying out saying, you know, you are a traitor to the cause. And how on earth is feminism to be blamed for women being moany and miserable today?
Well, Jo, first of all, I think the first statistic is that only 7% of women actually identify as feminists. So again, media and politics is dominated by the agenda, but in fact, ordinary women don't identify with it at all. As I said, only 7%. The problem with modern feminism is that it's elitist. It infantilizes women by often second-guessing their motives. And it also, sadly, in some cases, can make women genuinely unhappy. And it's not, you know, those women. I feel sorry for those women and they should be supported. But one of the reasons I believe that they are unhappy, as the Young Women's Trust showed, is because of an elitist agenda, a 1% feminist agenda pushed by people like Maria Miller.
Right. Maria Miller, what do you say to that it is an elitist issue? Feminism isn't something that actually has anything to do with ordinary women's lives?
Well, the evidence that we took in our select committee on our report into women at work and the gender pay gap would suggest that Laura's entirely wrong. That the biggest group of women who are hit by problems of a lack of equality in society are women on the lowest of pays. Women who are in highly feminised sectors like caring and hospitality, who already have or continue to have problems getting the sort of wages they can live on and the sort of career progression that perhaps other women take for granted. Look, you know, some women in this country, very privileged women, have seen a great deal of change and benefit out of the feminist agenda. We want to make sure that it's every woman who gets more access to equality in the future.
Right, and isn't your issue really to do with middle-class women? I mean, you cite the fact that now girls are doing better than boys at school, that women are outperforming men throughout education, but that is the new generation information coming through. And you have a problem with middle-class women who you say may be moany and miserable as a result of feminism, but that's not entirely fair, is it?
No, certainly not. I'm a proud middle-class woman. I think the issue with things like gender pay gap is, first of all, how it's misrepresented in the media, and secondly, how it ignores, first, low pay especially, and how families work as a unit.
Right, but hang on, but the Institute of Fiscal Studies says on average women earn 18% less per hour than men. There's nothing misrepresenting about that.
But Joe, as you well know, that doesn't take into account the areas, it doesn't take into account part-time work. The Guardian released a survey this year, and I've tweeted it to the Daily Politics account, that showed that women between the age of 20 and 29 out-earn their female or their male counterparts.
Right,
the other, yeah, the other.
Let her finish, and then I'll come to.
I've never heard such rubbish.
Well, that's because you don't read it on. That's because you don't read the statistics.
I have never
Angela,
heard
what's
such
the rubbish here?
Feminism is a creed of liberation and equality for women, and it has not caused women to become whiny or unsatisfied. What we need here is to see that women ought to be allowed to take their place however they want to, on equal terms with men in our society, and we're a very long way from that. The pay gap is 30% once you're past 30, and why does it go down? Why does it widen when you're past 30? Because most of the duties to have and look after children land disproportionately on women, and we have not organised our society.
They want to do that.
I'm not saying they don't.
Well, then what's the problem if this is what women want?
Hang on, let Angela finish the point and then I'll come back to you.
We need to organise our society so that we care for children, we're more child-centred, and when women do that, they don't suffer a career disadvantage. There are other societies that have managed to achieve this, and they have much happier societies with men and women contributing more. That's the change that feminism brings.
Right, let me put that back, because when women come back into or want to come back into the workplace, are you saying they are not then unfairly paid compared to their male counterparts, that they are able to do the jobs that they did before? Is that what your research
They're not discriminated against once they come back. And just a moment, there's no evidence for that. Christina Hoff Summers in the US has done it.
Hang on, let Laura finish.
Joanna Williams at Spiked has looked into it. The Institute of Economic Affairs has also looked into it, and Alison Wolfe in her book The Double X Factor also looked into it. But Women's Hour, let's take Women's Hour, who had a survey out last week. OK, now this is a bit, just let me finish this point.
This is ridiculous.
Of the women who worked full-time, 56% said they would like to spend more time at home, and 1.6% said they wanted to work more.
But that's not the point. But hang on, that's not the point we were talking about. Well, let's go back to being discriminated against in terms of pay. You have found that difficult. You have found different evidence. Hang on. Laura, let's listen to Maria Miller's evidence on the pay gap.
So our Select Committee took extensive evidence on this, and we found it was clear that women over the age of 30 going back into the workplace were not able to go back into the sorts of jobs that they might have had before they had children. They weren't able to get the sort of flexible working which would enable them to do the sort of things that you're talking about.
Yes.
Because what we found very clearly was that women did want to go back into work. They did want to be able to balance their children and family commitments and their work life. But unfortunately, too many employers are still not making that available. And Britain is suffering as a result. And that's why business needs to deal with it.
This is a woman who has blamed the existence of Donald Trump on feminism. Now, this is ludicrous. There were male chauvinist pigs long before feminism existed. We have got a liberation movement of women fighting for our equality, not more, fighting for our equality to deal with issues like that. And I won't sit here and be told by somebody that a fight for equality causes male chauvinism. It certainly doesn't.
Are you saying that the absence of feminism would mean that women would be happier today?
I'm saying that the feminists should stop pitting men and women against each other.
We don't.
That men and women, yes, they are.
How?
And just because you don't like somebody's point of view doesn't mean that you can ignore the evidence that's out there.
But there is conflicting evidence, isn't there?
Not really. There's conflicting evidence because it's picked out by, as I said, the media and political elite. In terms of returning to work, because it is an important issue, OK? Flexible working and part-time working is exactly what women want. However, top-down government initiatives will actually have a chilling effect on employers offering that, Maria. And I seriously ask you to reconsider those kind of proposals because it works against women. It doesn't work for them.
There are women on the right, like this, who say Laura, who say that if you give women equal pay, it will stop women being allowed into the workplace. If you give women maternity leave, somehow it will stop
I defended maternity leave
being
yesterday on
allowed into the workplace.
Live.
This is nonsense.
But isn't it the point that actually for the women who want to stay at home and look after their children, that they don't necessarily want to enter the workplace and they're not fine? But
feminism is about choices, and it's about creating a society that enables women to stay at home and look after their children if they want, or to go out to work and have a career and children if they want.
And I think I'd say, Jo, that Laura doesn't represent the views of the Conservative Party, and I think her website could be misinterpreted in that way. Conservative Party is absolutely focused on making sure that women can do their best in terms of going into work, getting the jobs that they want, and balancing that in the way that they choose to balance it. And I think that Laura needs to look at some of the facts.
But Angelique, interestingly there, Labour MPs, women MPs, have always numbered highly than Tory women MPs.
We have more women MPs than all the other parties.
But in terms of prime ministers, of course, they've had two female prime ministers. So in a way, reaching the top has been easier, it seems, or certainly more possible under the Tories than under Labour.
That is undeniably true. There are those of us that tried to change it, and we'll carry on fighting.
Right, but it's interesting, bearing in mind the different approaches, that it hasn't happened under Labour.
It's a point that I absolutely accept. I'll fight and carry on fighting the rest of my life to make sure that we do as well in terms of female prime ministers as the Conservative Party.
Good. Laura Perrins, thank you.